Folks, day one at the 2026 Causeway Challenge from Bangkok, Thailand is complete. And of the over 400, almost 450 players from around the world who are competing in this landmark event, we are going to be focusing on the 88 player Premier Division, which consists of over half of the world's top 100 players and most of the top grandmaster players in the world. So with that, let's take a look at the standings after day one. As I said, 10 games in the books and only 3 players are over 7 wins after that first day. The Thai phenom Napat in first place with 9 wins, an incredibly impressive performance on day one for the youngster. And the Aussies, Josh Watt and Andrew Fisher, the only 2 players with 8 wins to finish the day. After that, there is a bit of a logjam with a lot of players at 7-3 after the first day of play, including a bunch of players that you would expect to see lurking around the top of the standings, whether that is former world champion David Eldar, fellow former world champion Akshay Bandarkar in 4th place, or, of course, the legend Nigel Richards rounding out the 7-3 players. He has the weakest tiebreaker, but he definitely had what has to be considered the play of the day in his round 3 matchup against Akshay. So after opening with the bingo of evasive to start the game, Nigel has drawn the first blank, and he has a pretty favorable position here, holding a 50-point lead, and with very reasonable options to bingo, such as his highest scoring 7-letter word. That would be herpled for 75 points. And if he's at all uncomfortable with placing a D out in the triple lane and opening a lot of nice floaters back to Akshay, he could just play hid for 38 points. Very solid score while keeping PER blank for next turn. Most expert players would be thrilled to have to pick between these 2 options. So what does Nigel do here? This is shades of pernoctated all over again. There is one better play than any of the options I've just mentioned. It's not that much better, but it is clearly better. That being said, it is a hugely higher degree of difficulty play than anything that I've mentioned so far. Nigel plays Aerophiad for 76 points. Only 1 additional point beyond herpled here, but it is significantly better positionally and defensively. Herpled, again, opening the triple lane back to Akshay, as well as a slew of nice tiles to play 8-letter bingos through. Aerophiad scores only 1 more point, but is significantly better defensively, yielding what appears to be 12 fewer points on average per turn back to Akshay. So this is just an astounding play. I've made a few videos recently about how Nigel's tactical brilliance is maybe not what gets the headlines when you watch him play. It's moves like this that get the headlines when you watch him play. So he is clearly in his usual amazing form heading into days 2, 3, and 4 of this event. Later in the game, he makes a really astute play, holding these letters with a Q and a J unseen. He plays Fen here, setting up his eye for Fenny, one of the few hooks for Fen remaining in the pool. This is a really great way to prepare for a potential Q draw, because if he draws it, it will pair with his leftover letters to allow him to play Niqab to the triple for a huge score, hooking Fenny. And after Akshay is forced to balance his rack, getting rid of consonants, Nigel does draw the Q and plays Niqab, which is just enough for him to outrun Akshay's big J play en route to a very narrow win for the GOAT in round 3. Both of the top 2 seeds in Nigel and David Eldar got huge scares in just round 1, the very first round of the tournament. Here, Nigel is up by only 4 in an extremely tight game, and he has the unplayable 7 of handset on his rack. Instead of getting to bingo, he has to balance his rack instead. He just plays his H for 20, and Charnwit, his Thai expert opponent, has impiety on his rack, which plays for a 95-point score with overlaps alongside the E and W already on the board. Instead, he just plays piety for 37. A good play, but that IM prefix could have been tacked on there for a huge additional score. And worst of all, had he played this bingo, Nigel would not have had a counter bingo in response despite really good tiles on his rack. Instead, he makes a really clever play here of just do alongside hoisting. The thing that makes this play so strong is that Nigel has the last two available hooks to IO in the N and S on his rack. It's a lane that greatly favors him compared to Charnwit. Charnwit responds with Wade for 34 at the top of the board, and Nigel draws the J and another E, which might not normally be good for bingoing, but that's why you keep those good bingo leaves, because in this case, it gives him Sagent for 123 points to essentially ice the game on the spot. A crazy win for Nigel in round one. As for David Eldar, his round one game with Sid Nityanand came down to the very last few turns where both of the players traded bingos. First, Sid with Striper for 71 to take a narrow lead, but then David responding with Anoints as an overlapping play for 91 to go up by 60, which feels like it should be more than enough with this terrible pool. Except David draws ZV out of the bag, one of the worst two-tile draws that he could get, as both of these letters play in only one spot on the board, and he is very unlikely to get a chance to play both. What Sid is supposed to do here is to block the Z spot, but instead, with time ticking down, he makes a reasonable choice of Fruity for 39, and David responds with his Z play to go up by just enough to win a very close round one game. But the story of the day was most certainly Napat, who put forth a commanding performance on the live stream, beating a gauntlet of grandmasters, including World Youth Champion Madhav Kamath, barely edging out Australian top expert Cameron Farlow with groovers in the nick of time in the late game, and following up with victories against GM's Dave Wiegand of the US, and in the very next round, Andrew Fisher of Australia, before finally Australia's Josh Watt ended Napat's bid for an undefeated opening day in the final round. Can Napat continue to hold on to his top spot in the standings against one of the toughest fields in Scrabble history? Or will top seeds David Eldar and Nigel Richards continue to work their way to the top with 26 more rounds to go? In just a couple hours from now, day 2 from the 2026 Causeway Challenge is set to begin, and you can watch all the action from any of 3 different live streams over at Let's Play Scrabble's YouTube channel, and I will be watching right alongside you because I cannot wait to see how this incredible tournament unfolds. See you there, and I'll catch you in the next one.